All rise for the arrival of the Honorable Senate President and the Senators of the Republic.
The 68th session of the Senate of the first regular session of the 19th Congress is hereby called to order. We will be led by a prayer today with our distinguished colleague, Senator Raffy Tulfo, to lead us in prayer.
Atin pong alalahanin na tayo po'y nasa presensya ng Panginoon. Mark chapter 9 verse 34 to 36. Nang sila'y nasa bahay na, tinanong ni Jesus ang kanyang mga alagad, "Ano ang pinagtatalunan ninyo sa daan?" Hindi sila makasagot, sapagkat ang pinagtatalunan nila ay kung sino sa kanila ang pinakadakila. Naupo si Jesus, tinawag ang 12 at sinabi sa kanila, "Ang sino mang nagnanais maging una ay dapat maging huli sa lahat at maging lingkod ng lahat. Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and be the servant of all." Panginoon, gaya po ng mga disipulo, kami po ay iyong mga alagad at alagad ng sambayan ng Pilipino. Lagi niyo po kaming papalahanan kung bakit kami nandito at bakit kami nabigyan ng pagkakataon na maglingkod. Turuan niyo po kami na maging katulad ninyo sa paglilingkod sa aming kapwa. Naway maging ehemplo kami sa ibang nais magsilbi sa bayan. Panginoon, maraming salamat po sa biyayang ito na makatulong sa marami at mapabuti ang buhay ng marami. Naway basbasan niyo po ang lahat ng aming ginagawa sa Senado upang ito ay magbunga ng tunay na pagbabago sa buhay ng mga Pilipino. Lahat po ng aming gagawin ngayong araw na ito ay iniaalay po namin sa inyo at sa ating bayan. Amen.
Amen. Secretary, please call the roll of members.
Roll call of members, the Honorable Senator Angara, Senator Binay, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Antiveros, Senator Lapid, Senator Legarda, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pimentel, Senator Poe, Senator Revilla, Senator Tolentino, Senator Tulfo, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Cynthia, Senator Villar Mark, the Senate President.
With 19 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the following, Mr. President. His Excellency Ilan Flus, Ambassador of Israel to the Philippines, accompanied by Mr. Nir Balzam, Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of Israel.
And I believe also we have with us 2 other ambassadors.
Oh.
Your Honor, we have with us
Oh, yes.
the Ambassador of Hungary, our dear friend, Her Excellency Tita Nilia Toth. Ambassador Toth, welcome, together with your Consul General Keller. And we have also with us the Ambassador of New Zealand, of which I had just come back from with a very good relaxing vacation. Such a beautiful country, Ambassador. Ambassador Peter Kell, together with your Deputy Head of Mission, Tim Given, and Giselle Jovenier, Policy Advisor. And of course, we'd like to also welcome Ambassador Ilan Flus of Israel. All 3 countries, we had a chance to visit all 3 beautiful nations. May I ask for a minute suspension so we may approach
Yes,
the
Mr.
ambassadors to
President.
give them
Move for a minute suspension, Mr.
session
President.
suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, may I be allowed to just acknowledge some guests from the gallery? We have with us guests of Senator Ejercito, Governor Bonifacio Lacwasan of Mountain Province, Mayor Jose Padrid of Bae, Laguna, guests of Senator Alan Cayetano, and guests of Senator Go, world-class boxer Marlon Tapales, accompanied by Jim Mananingil, Ramon Falgi, and Jeffy Tinamisan. We welcome all of them in this August chamber, Mr. President.
Welcome to your Senate, lalo-lalo na kay Governor Lacwasan of Mountain Province, home of Sagada, beautiful Sagada, Mayor of Bae, Laguna, Joe Padrid, and of course, yung ating world-class boxer and champion, Marlon Tapales.
Thank you, Mr.
Welcome.
President. Mr. President, this juncture, I move that we dispense with the reading of the Journal of the 67th Session, Tuesday, May 9, 2023, and consider the same as approved.
There being no objection, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
There being no objection, Secretary, please proceed to the reference of business.
Bills on first reading. Senate number 2107, providing protection and incentives for freelance workers. Senator Go.
The Committees on Labor, Employment, and Human Resource Development.
2108, institutionalizing the Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino program. Senator Go.
Committees on Urban Planning, Housing, Local Government, and Finance.
2109, establishing greater responsibility and accountability from private employment agencies, amending RA 10361. Senator Go.
Committees on Labor and Employment.
2110, granting survivorship benefits to the surviving legitimate spouse and dependent children of a deceased retired chairperson, commissioner, or labor arbiter of the National NLRC, and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Go.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Labor, and Employment, and Finance.
2111, defining the scope and extent of the fiscal autonomy of the judicial branch of government and for other purposes. Senator Go.
Committee on Justice, Human Rights, and Finance.
2112, modernizing the Philippine Coast Guard, creating for the purpose the Philippine Coast Guard Modernization Trust Fund, appropriating funds therefore. Senator Go.
To the Committee on Public Services, National Defense, and Finance.
2113, requiring the inclusion of financial literacy and entrepreneurship as a separate core subject in the junior and senior high school curricula of the K-12 program, amending for the purpose RA 10679. Senator Go.
To the Committees on Youth and Basic Education.
2114, establishing a comprehensive framework to accelerate the attainment of the infrastructure flagship programs and projects of the national government. Senator Go.
Committee on Economic Affairs, Public Works, and Finance.
2115, mandating the Technical and Skills Development Authority to institutionalize a technical vocational education and training and livelihood program designed specifically for rehabilitated drug dependents and appropriate funds therefore. Senator Go.
Committee on Higher Technical Vocational Education and Finance.
2116, amending Section 8 of RA 10699 to upgrade the incentives for national para-athletes who win medals in international sports competitions. Senator Go.
To the Committee on Sports.
2117, granting full agricultural insurance coverage to all qualified agrarian reform beneficiaries of the CARP, amending for the purpose RA 6657. Senator Go.
Committee on Agriculture, Food, and Finance.
2118, expanding the services of the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation and encouraging private sector participation in agricultural insurance, further amending Section 1 and Section 3.11 of PD 1467 as amended. Senator Go.
Committee on Government Corporations, Agriculture, and Food and Agrarian Reform.
2119, establishing the Science for Change program and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Villar M.
Committees on Science and Technology and Finance.
2120, creating an advanced studies development program for exceptional government employees and for other purposes. Senator Villar M.
Committee on Higher Technical Vocational Education, Civil Service, and Finance.
2121, establishing and organizing the Philippine Electronic Sports Commission and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Villar M.
Committees on Sports, Civil Service, and Finance.
2122, establishing the Waste Workers Health and Welfare Program and for other purposes. Senator Villar M.
Committees on Labor and Employment and Finance.
2123, establishing regional and local concerts and art fairs, promoting the talents of Filipinos in music and art, providing funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Villar M.
To the Committees on Tourism, Culture, and Arts, and Finance.
2124, establishing a comprehensive Philippine cultural and artistic infrastructure program, promoting Filipino artistry and talent, appropriating funds therefore. Senator Villar M.
Committees on Culture and Arts, Public Works, and Finance.
2125, mandating the preservation and protection of agricultural lands in the Philippines and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
Committee on Agriculture, Food, and Agrarian Reform.
2126, right-sizing the national government to improve the delivery of public services and for other purposes. Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Civil Service and Finance.
2127, strengthening the anti-agricultural smuggling policies in the country, appropriating funds and for other purposes. Senator Villanueva.
Committee on Agriculture, Food, Justice, Human Rights, and Finance.
2128, introducing administrative tax reforms, amending sections 21, 22, 51, 56, 57, 58, 77, 81, 90, 91, 103, 106, 108, 109, 110, 112, 113, 114, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 120, 128, 200, 236, 237, 245, and 248, and creating a new section 112-A under the NIRC of 1997 as amended for other purposes, Senator Villanueva.
Committee on Ways and Means.
2129, declaring every 26th of June every year as Philippines-France Friendship Day, Senator Tulfo.
To the Committees on Culture and Arts, Foreign Relations, and Finance.
2130, declaring Cagayan de Oro River and its immediate environs located in Cagayan de Oro City, province of Misamis Oriental, a cultural heritage zone, Senator Legarda.
To the Committees on Culture and Arts and Tourism.
2131, exempting micro-insurance policies from VAT, tax on life insurance premiums, and documentary stamp tax, amending for the purpose sections 108, 109, 123, 183, 184, 185, 186, and 187 of the NIRC of 1997 as amended. Senator Legarda.
Committee on Ways and Means.
2132, promoting inclusive and sustainable productivity growth, repealing for the purpose RA 6971 by Senator Legarda.
To the Committees on Labor and Employment, Ways and Means.
2133, defining the rights of women deprived of liberty in jails and correctional facilities and providing funds for their enforcement, Senator Legarda.
To the Committee on Justice, Human Rights, Women, Children, and Finance.
2134, establishing environmental units in every banking institution to assess the environmental component of loan applications, Senator Legarda.
To the Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, Environment, and Climate Change.
2135, an act to promote greening and forest land rehabilitation and protection at the barangay level, spurring local climate change action, appropriating funds and for other purposes, Senator Legarda.
To the Committees on Environment, Natural Resources, Local Government, and Finance.
2136, declaring January 22 of every year as special working holiday to be known as National Farmers' Day, Senator Legarda.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Agrarian Reform.
Additional reference of business resolution, Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 10, concurrent resolution granting consent to Mr. Delphine N. Lorenzana, Chairman of the BCDA, to receive the United States Special Operations Command Medal from the Government of the United States of America, Senator Villanueva.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee report 64, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Local Government and Finance, o Senate Number 2165, with Senators Ejercito, Revilla Jr., Gatchalian, and Villanueva as authors thereof, an act institutionalizing the automatic income classification of provinces, cities, and municipalities and for other purposes, recommending its approval in substitution Senate Numbers 1530, 1913, and 2067, taking into consideration House Number 7006. Sponsored Senator Ejercito.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, as we have with us our guests from the country Israel, Mr. President, this afternoon, Mr. President, I move that proposed Senate Resolution Number 552 be taken up by the Chamber. And this is the resolution commemorating the 75th anniversary of the establishment of the State of Israel. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion, motion is approved.
Mr. President, with the consent of the body, may I ask our Secretary General to read only the title of the measure without prejudice to inserting into the records the whole text thereof.
Please proceed, Secretary.
Resolution recognizing commemorating the 75th anniversary of the establishment of the State of Israel on May 14, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, with the consent of the body, may I be recognized to deliver the sponsorship speech.
We would like to recognize our Majority Floor Leader, a distinguished gentleman from Bulacan, the great province of Bulacan, Senator Joel Villanueva.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. It is my honor and privilege to congratulate Israel on its 75th anniversary this coming May 14, 2023. The relationship between our nations is more deeply rooted in our faith and common beliefs. Long before our people sheltered Jewish brothers and sisters during World War II, the fate of the children of Israel has long already been light to our people since we embraced the Abrahamic religions of Islam and Christianity as prophesied by the prophet Isaiah. And I quote, I, the Lord, have called you in righteousness. I will take hold of your hand. I will keep you and will make you to be a covenant for the people and a light for the Gentiles. Close quote. Isaiah chapter 42, verse 6. Mr. President, in 1934, the Philippines welcomed 1,300 European Jews seeking refuge through the country's open door policy. In 1947, the Philippines was one of the 33 countries to vote for the United Nations resolution to create the State of Israel. In fact, Mr. President, the Philippines is the only Asian country that supported the resolution. Since the establishment of the modern State of Israel, the Philippines and the State of Israel are always friends and partners in the spirit of perpetual firm and lasting peace. This year marks the 66th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the Philippines and Israel, which was established on August 9, 1957. This was made official through the signature of the Treaty of Friendship in 1958. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, both nations continue to create deep connections and share holistic democratic values, freedom, and civil rights as manifested in the 14 existing major bilateral agreements between our countries. Mr. President, during the height of the pandemic, Israel accommodated the Filipino community in their vaccination efforts. Filipino diplomatic staff, OFWs, and the agro studies on-the-job training participants, as well as OFWs with expired working permits or undocumented migrants, were vaccinated at community centers in Israel. Israel also donated more than 450,000 US dollars worth of medical supplies, testing kits, and educational equipment to the Philippines in 2020. Here in the Senate, Mr. President, there is an existing Philippines-Israel Parliamentary Friendship Association, which was formalized when Senate Resolution number 114 was unanimously adopted by the Senate in the 18th Congress on July 24, 2018. The resolution conveyed the sense of the Senate to fully promote, support, and enhance Philippines-Israel relations. Mr. President, this representation joins the State of Israel in the celebration of its 75th founding anniversary in commemoration of both nations' steadfast and unwavering commitment to its harmonious and peaceful diplomatic relations. Thank you very much, and may God bless us all.
Thank you very much, my dear Majority Floor Leader. Majority Floor Leader, may I also, that's co-sponsor, rather than co-sponsoring, I would just like to share to the body that I had the chance to inaugurate the new patrol boats that our government had bought from the State of Israel, and that many more are coming. They turned over 2 fast craft patrol boats, and I believe 7 more are coming for a total of 9. But the beauty of it is half of those that will be delivered will actually be built in the Philippines. And if I be given a chance to show the video that we made about this activity that we had with the ambassador last Monday, if I may be given a chance, Majority Leader, with the permission of the body.
Please, Mr. President.
So may we present?
Please, Mr. President. Thank you.
Wala tang sound. This will help us patrol the West Philippine Sea with these fast craft boats.
Men and women of the Navy, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Unang-una, gusto ko pong sabihin, maraming salamat sa inyong serbisyo sa ating inang bayan. Thank you very much for your service. I am so grateful to be here today to witness such an important event. It is an honor to be with all of you for the christening of our new patrol gunboats and the blessing of the Naval Shipbuilding Center. The men and women of our Navy never back down from your sworn duty to protect the country and the Filipino people. Kaya maraming salamat sa inyo lahat. These are little acts of bravery that make the Filipino people proud of our armed forces of the Philippines. And I know with the proper equipment and technology, the Navy can and will serve the country even better. That's why I'm glad that we have christened BRP Hener Kinanag and BRP Domingo Delwana today. I have no doubt that with these new 2 patrol gunboats, the Navy will be able to beef up our border security and maritime defense towards the ultimate goal of protecting our sovereignty. With the upgraded naval shipping yard, which will bring us closer and being on equal footing with maritime technology of our neighboring countries. The completion of this yard is crucial capacity building milestone that will help strengthen our country's overall defense strategies and programs. And with the new yard and the new patrol gunboats, I am hopeful that the Navy feels better equipped to be our vanguards of freedom, independence, and democracy, and to be protectors of our people. Kaya, mabuhay po ang ating Navy, mabuhay po ang ating mga sundalo ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. Maraming salamat po. Saludo po ako sa inyo lahat.
Yun lang po. I wanted to show our colleagues this video, and the ambassador is with us there unveiling these 2 patrol boats. I wanted to show you this video para madagdagan po ang equipment ng Navy at ng Coast Guard. Sana madagdagan po natin. Kailangan pa po nila. And we want to thank the Israeli government for providing us this wonderful equipment needed by our Navy. And we're even looking at talking about hopefully purchasing larger corvettes, larger Navy boats and Coast Guard boats from the Israeli government, the Israeli people. Ang kagandahan po nila, nito mga kababayan, mga kapatid, they're building most of the boats here. And they're going to employ Caviteños to build the boats in the new shipyard that we had just shown in the video. So hopefully we can replicate this with the other boats in the next few years to come, for the next batch of ships for the next few years to come. So yun lamang po, my dear Majority Floor Leader, my dear colleagues, I want to thank the Israeli government from the bottom of our hearts. We've come a long way from recognizing you. Remember that we were the first Asian country to recognize Israel 75 years ago in the United Nations. The first vote from the ASEAN was from the Philippines. I think we were the only at that time who recognized, the only ones. And before the war, during the war, World War II, everybody knows this. There were movies made about this. That we opened our arms and welcomed our Jewish brothers and sisters to the Philippines. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, yung asawa po, ang mami, the mother of Sara Duterte, Madam Zimmerman, is an ancestor of the first batch of Jewish settlers here during World War II. So that's the history, how we're tied in history. And we are happy to be here today to honor the 75 years of friendship, or rather the statehood of the State of Israel. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, I'm about to move that all members of the Senate be made co-author of this resolution, but there are several members who wanted to speak, Mr. President. First is the distinguished gentleman, distinguished lady, Mr. President, the Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Risa Ontiveros. I move that she be recognized, Mr. President.
Our Deputy Minority Floor Leader, Risa Ontiveros, is recognized.
Salamat kaayo, Mr. President. As we commemorate the 75th anniversary of Israel's independence, I share today this beautiful poem from Israeli-American liturgist, poet, author, and educator Alden Solovi. O peace, you fleeting dream. O justice, you fickle hope. Today we do not pray in your name. Today we pray in the name of the children who have never met you, who have not been blessed with your love or your truth. Surely their cries must someday drive you out of hiding, summoning you to cast your healing upon all the earth. Mr. President, together with the peace-loving people of Israel and the whole world, we bend our heads with a prayer for peace and justice, a prayer that our common humanity brings us together instead of drives us apart, protects all our children instead of teaching them to hate, teaching them instead to love. Shalom, kapayapaan. Salamat kayo, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, my dear colleague.
Mr. President, Senator Robin Hood Padilla of from Bicol region is also seeking the floor. I move that he be recognized, Mr.
Our
President.
distinguished colleague, Senator Robin Hood Padilla, the adopted son of Mindanao, and of course, son of Bicol, is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, at sa ating pinunong mayorya. Assalamualaikum. Shalom.
Salam.
Kapayapaan po para sa lahat. Mahal na Ginoong Pangulo, gusto ko lamang pong sundan yung ipinahayag ng ating pinunong mayorya patungkol po doon sa populasyon sa lupang pangako. Sapagkat totoo po yun, at ito po ay meron po tayong mga kapatid na Hudyo, meron po tayong kapatid na mga Kristiyano, at meron po tayong mga kapatid na Muslim. At alam niyo po, Ginoong Pangulo, ako po ay maligayang maligaya na nakapunta sa bansa ng lupang pangako sapagkat ako po ay naging bisita ng gobyerno ng Israel at hindi ko po akalain. Ito po ay sa ilalim ng aking puso na hindi ko po akalain na ang makikita ko po doon ay pagtanggap sa akin. Sapagkat alam naman po ninyo ang mga nababalitaan nating mga bali-balita na sinasabi at laging ipinakikita na merong pagkitil ng kalayaan sa mga Muslim na sila ay magdasal. At ito po ay aking pinasisinungalingan. Sapagkat nung ako po ay nag-ikot sa Jerusalem at naghanap ng mapagdadasalan, wala pong pumigil sa akin na kahit na sino na gawin ko ang aking pagdarasal. Ako po ay tuloy-tuloy na nakapunta sa Masjid Al-Aqsa. Ako po ay nakapagdasal. Wala po akong natanggap na kahit anong paghigpit o ako po ay pinagbawalan. At hindi po ako nagpakilala bilang isang diplomatiko. Ako po ay nakapasok ng normal. Sa akin pong pagsasalaysay ngayon, gusto ko lamang pong sabihin na tunay ang sinabi ng ating pinunong mayorya na meron pong kalayaan na gawin mo ang iyong pananampalataya. At yan po ay aking ipinagpapasalamat sa gobyerno ng Israel. Pangalawa, mahal na Ginoong Pangulo, atin pong nakita at napanood po natin ang inyong video patungkol po sa ibinabahagi sa atin na military power ng Israel. Malaking bagay po ito. Sapagkat hindi naman po natin ito maitatago, mahal na Ginoong Pangulo, na number one, pagdating sa usapin ng armas, ay talaga pong maaasahan natin ang itong mga ibinibigay sa atin. Kailangan linawin po, ibinibigay sa atin. At yan po ay matagal ng assistance. Ngayon, mahal na Ginoong Pangulo, sa usapin ng pananampalataya, sa usapin ng militar, meron pong isang usapin, medical. Ito po ang gusto ko pong isang bagay na ipalangdakan sa ating mga kababayan. Sapagkat ang Israel po ay number one din sa usapin ng medical. At hindi po sa usapin lamang ng militar o sa usapin lamang ng pananampalataya, kung hindi sa usapin mismo ng pagpapahalaga ng buhay ng tao na gamot sa mga sakit na hindi natin maasahan ang mga tinatawag po nating mga gamot na hindi alternatibo, na ito po yung mga chemical, ano? Ang Israel po ay meron po silang gamot na dinedevelop na sana ay mapagkatiwalaan na rin ng ating inang bayan at ng ating mga namumuno. At ito po ang medical cannabis. Sila po ay numero 1 ngayon sa research. Meron na po silang mga tinatawag natin na mga medical datas na talaga pong nagpapatunay na ito pong medical cannabis ay gamot. Ito po ay nakatutulong sa mga hindi na bibigyan ng lunas ng ibang mga chemical na gamot. Kaya po, mahal na Ginoong Pangulo, muli po nagpapasalamat po ako sa inyo at ako po ay binigyan po ninyo ng pagkakataon na mabisita ang bansang Israel at sa akin pong mga mata ay makita ko po at mapatunayan ko ang mga sinabi ng ating pinunong mayorya patungkol po sa kalayaan ng pananampalataya, sa kanila pong pagtulong sa atin, hindi lamang militar, kung hindi medical. Kaya po, muli, nagpapasalamat po sa inyo at sa bansang Israel. Maraming salamat po. Shalom.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Sani Angara from the great province of Aurora is also seeking the floor.
The
I move that,
Honorable Sani
be
Angara
recognized.
is recognized, the distinguished gentleman from Baler and Aurora.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. I just wanted to co-sponsor, to be co-author of with the permission of the Majority Leader, and to mention also, because the Senate President mentioned that we were one of the few countries to accept refugees from the Jews fleeing Europe. The president then was Manuel Quezon.
Yes, who's from?
Who's my town mate. So I thought it's a nice to mention that for those who,
Yeah.
especially the younger generation, who may not know that. And that's why he is a figure revered not only in the Philippines but also in Israel. And we thank Israel as well for its many contributions. And I would like to propose, take the opportunity to propose, Mr. President, because I think we have a lot to learn from a state like Israel. Which is a very innovative state, a world leader in R&D, in innovation,
Yes.
in agriculture, in so many things. Perhaps we could do a parliamentary visit. Senator Nancy and I were talking, we only have 2 years left in our tenure here at the Senate. Perhaps that could be top of our list in terms of places to visit and learn from. Yun yung totoong lakbay-aral, Mr. President, na may matututunan ho tayo.
Actually, not only through science and technology and R&D, but also in agriculture, Your Honor. They're one of the top when it comes to technology, agricultural technologies. I would love to go. So we'll discuss that with protocol, and hopefully we can make that happen, and all senators are invited, of course.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, next to deliver a message, Mr. President, is the distinguished gentleman from Davao Region and Bohol Province, no other than Senator Bato de la Rosa. I move that he be recognized, Mr.
Our
President.
distinguished gentleman from Davao, my compadre, Senator Bato de la Rosa, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would like to associate myself with the resolution filed by our very good Majority Leader recognizing the 75th commemoration of the establishment of the State of Israel. You know, Mr. President, when I was then with the Philippine National Police, I had a very good experience of very good working relationship with our counterparts with the Israel government, and lalong-lalo na in the field of counter-terrorism, Mr. President. Alam mo, Mr. President, mahanga po ako sa bansang Israel. Siguro, kahit na makakuha man lang tayo ng kahit na 50% of the patriotism that is being displayed by the Israeli people towards their country, I think hindi tayo mabubuli ng kahit sinong malaking bansa, Mr. President, because we know Israel is a very small nation, but nobody can bully them kahit na pinagtutulong-tulungan sila ng kanyang mga neighbors. napakaganda po yung kanilang patriotism na pinapakita. And in fact, Mr. President, hindi lang ROTC, hindi lang mandatory ROTC ang nire-require sa kanilang mga citizens, Mr. President, kundi mandatory conscription to the Israeli Defense Forces, lahat mandatory. So napakaganda po, and it has become a source of pride from among their Israeli youth na makonscript sila sa kanilang defense force. So I hope the Filipino people can somehow copy kahit 50% lang of the patriotism of the Israeli people, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Maraming salamat, distinguished colleague.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next to one seeking the floor, Mr. President, and I remember during the time when I was a member of the House of Representatives, I became his vice president. He was the president, perhaps the longest tenured president of Christian Friends of Knesset here in the Philippines. No other than the former Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary when the first Philippine president visited Israel. Now Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Our distinguished colleague from the city of Taguig and Pateros, Senator Alan Cayetano, is recognized. Former Speaker of the House.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, dear colleagues. Of course, His Excellency and our dear friends from Israel, the ambassador is here. My associating myself with this resolution and vote will not matter. But the vote of the Philippines when the state of Israel was being voted upon mattered because we were the deciding vote. But ever since then, there has been no time wherein when we reached out, Israel has not responded. So on that point, I'd just like to thank all Israelis, regardless of religion, that we have continued that relationship despite the distance. And I'm very happy that Senator Robin Padilla, representing millions of Muslim Filipinos here, have spoken up and in fact have testified about the virtue of educating ourselves by going to Israel. You know, we have millions of pesos that we spend every year for the Hajj to support our Filipino Muslims who are less blessed in finances so that they can be able to fulfill something that is very sacred to them. So I've also talked to a lot of priests and a lot of Christian pastors and a lot of Catholic priests. They would also like to have some kind of program of also visiting the Holy Land. And I also heard that one of the mosques that is also considered holy by our brother and sister Muslims are also in Israel. So I differ a little bit. You know, I admire very much Senator Bato. I am volunteering to be his campaign manager for his re-election. But we differ in the aspect of supporting a mandatory ROTC. But he pointed out that Israel has a mandatory military after at a certain age conscription, and that's very admirable and true. No one can bully them. But I'd like to point out that they also have an excellent, they have shown excellence in diplomacy. If you look at the map and you look at the last 5 years, the friends and the bridges that have been built, whether it's in front of the cameras or behind the cameras, the diplomacy has grown that now Israel has so many friends or have at least open dialogues with groups and people and even states that before they don't even have relations or we're not talking to. So to differentiate with Senator Bato, I'd like mandatory teaching of diplomacy because the Philippines has been very good in that. We are also the founders of ASEAN. And when the rest of the world, Europe, was at war, when many parts of the world in the Middle East was at war, Filipinos, Indonesians, Malaysians, Singaporeans, Cambodians, from Lao PDR, from every single from Burma, now Myanmar, from every single country in Southeast Asia, despite our difference in religion, in race, in language, we have found a way to live together at peace. Having said that, I agree with everyone who spoke, especially Senator Angara, that living in peace also means prosperity. And it's incredible how Israel is found in the desert, but they are experts in agriculture. And I have to thank them and their former ambassador, because we actually have two model areas in Taguig. One is in top of our city university, and the other is by the lake but being renovated na may drip technology. And it's incredible. We talked, the mayor of Taguig and the ambassador talked, they introduced them to an NGO. 1 week later, the people are carrying the equipment. 2 weeks later, it's operational. Translate that to Philippines, 6 months to plan, 2 months to bid, and maybe 3 years to implement. But this one was implemented in less than a month. No? So not to belabor the point, but I think everyone is unanimous that we want the Filipino kind of friendship, the Filipino kind also of hospitality, the Filipino kind of bond with Israel to continue. So God bless and thank you for being here in the Senate. Thank you, Mr. President, Majority Leader. Thank you to the Minority Leader.
And like to add also, I had an opportunity to visit Israel. Marami po tayong OFWs. We have a lot of OFWs in Israel. And they're very well loved and very well liked by the Israeli people. And as a matter of fact, when I crossed borders to Jordan, it's a small border town. Maliit lang. One gate. You know, there was a long line, gentlemen, ladies, there was a long line of different nationalities. When they found out we were Filipino, the border guards, Filipino, come. They got our passports and they let us through. We were a big group. We were a big group of mga pilgrims kami. And you know what? They were so friendly to the Philippines, maybe because of the fact that we were friendly to them once upon a time in our nation's history, in their nation's history. And it is one of the countries that have visa-free, that we do not need, visa-free access. Yes, you do not need a visa to visit Israel. That is true, and we want to thank them. That's why, Ambassador, on behalf of the Filipino people, Toda. Yung Toda is thank you. Huh? And so, yes, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I will not let this day pass without saying that the Bible says, give honor to whom honor is due. The country of Israel has been very kind to us, to our people. I will state for the record that there are 9 JIL churches in the country of Israel. It's been there for 25 years now. They will be celebrating their 26th anniversary this September 2023, Mr. President, with about almost 1,000 members, Mr. President. And I would just like to second the motion of Senator Sani Angara that it's about time that we go there. And I feel bad, Mr. President, because all the members of my family, Mr. President, immediate family, had been there except me. Because I've been working for quite a long time, the past 5-10 years. And indeed, Mr. President, the Bible says, and this has been my personal belief and the part of my faith, that the Israelites are the chosen people of God. And the Bible says, those who bless God's people will be blessed. In 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 30, letter B, those who honor God, who honor Him, He will honor. But those who despise Him, they shall be disdained. And so today is such a great day. Indeed, this is the day that the Lord has made. And we are just giving what is right for our friendly country, the country of Israel. And so with that, Mr. President, I will also move that all members of the Senate be made co-authors of this resolution. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection, the motion is approved. And to remind the Majority Leader, as I said, there is no visa restrictions for Israel. you can visit anytime.
Yes, Mr. President. In fact, Mr. President, JIL people will again go because they do this almost yearly, Mr. President. This coming June 8 to 16, I will ask our good friend, our good ambassador to look into this Lakbay Aral, Mr. President. Thousands of JIL people from all over the world will be in Israel, Mr. President. So I'm glad that the Israel government is helping us with all the preparations. Mr. President, at this juncture, no other member wishes to interpolate or propose amendments to the measure. I move that we adopt proposed Senate Resolution number 552, subject to style. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection, and all members are made co-author, co-sponsor of the measure. Hereby declare, the chair declares that Senate Resolution number 552 is hereby adopted by the Philippine Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may we invite Ambassador Flus to personally receive the Senate resolution from the Senate President. And I ask that the session be
Session
suspended.
is suspended for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Shum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, with the consent of the body, I move to consider proposed Senate Resolution number 587 and for the Secretary to read the title of the measure. This is the resolution commending and congratulating Marlon Tapales.
There be no objection. The motion is approved. Secretary, please read the title of the resolution.
Resolution commending and congratulating Marlon Tapales for winning the World Boxing Association and International Boxing Federation World Super Bantamweight titles.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Sports, Senator Christopher Bongo, to deliver the sponsorship speech.
Our distinguished colleague from the great province and city of Davao is recognized.
Batangas.
And Batangas, I'm sorry, also Batangas.
Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, as chairman of Committee on Sports, it is with great honor that I sponsor the Senate resolution congratulating Marlon Tapales, Bisaya ito, for winning 2 world titles in his recent match, the World Boxing Association, WBA, and International Boxing Federation, IBF, World Super Bantamweight titles. The Mindanaoan boxer won via split decision against the unbeaten Uzbek boxer. His remarkable performance in the boxing ring has made his country proud. Tayo po, mga Pilipino. At a very young age, Marlon was determined to become a professional boxer. He started training at a local gym in Lanao del Norte, where his natural talent for the sport was quickly recognized by his coach. He won several amateur tournaments and caught the attention of scouts who saw his potential. Soon enough, Marlon was offered the opportunity to turn professional and pursue his dream of becoming a world-class boxer. In 2009, Marlon turned professional, and within a few years, he had already made a name for himself in the local boxing scene. In 2013, he won the WBO Asia Pacific Bantamweight title, which marked the beginning of his ascent to greatness. He went on to win several more regional titles, and in 2016, Marlon fought for the WBO Bantamweight World title, where he emerged victorious, becoming the first boxer from Lanao del Norte to win a world title. His achievement will always be remembered as a significant milestone in the history of boxing in Lanao del Norte and the Philippines as a whole. Marlon's humble beginnings instilled in him a strong work ethic and an unrelenting determination to succeed. Even if he knew that he had to work twice as hard as his opponents, he did so with unwavering focus and commitment. His dedication paid off, and today, Marlon Tapales is a world-renowned boxer celebrated for his remarkable achievements in sports. In the sport, he has proven himself to be an excellent athlete, and his performance in the ring has left his opponents in awe. Marlon, you have made your mark in the world of boxing, and your achievement is a source of pride and honor for your family, friends, and your country. On behalf of all those who have watched you fight and all those who knew your achievements, I offer my warmest congratulations. Your success served as inspiration to all aspiring Filipino athletes. Your commitment to your goal is an example which can be achieved through hard work and dedication. Your achievement is not just a victory for you, but for all of us who have supported you along the way. We look forward to seeing your continued success in the years to come. Patuloy nating itaas ang bandera ng Pilipinas sa buong mundo. Ngayon yatang December, may laban naman po si Marlon. Wishing you good luck at sana'y manalo ka at tuloy-tuloy po ang iyong tagumpay. Once again, congratulations, Marlon Tapales. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Kababayan.
Thank you, Mr. President. And with the permission of the author, I will move that all members be made co-author, Mr. President, of this resolution.
Yes,
So move, Mr.
please.
President.
There being no objection to that, all members are made co-authors. Lanao del Norte, di ay ni siya nga atong zone. He's from Lanao del Norte, my region mate, in Region 10.
Yes, Mr. President, this juncture, Senator Jinggoy Estrada wanted to insert into the records his co-sponsorship speech. I move that it be inserted, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
we take note of that.
Yes, Mr. President, no other member wishes to interpolate or propose amendments to the measure. I move that we adopt proposed Senate Resolution number 587, subject to style. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection. The resolution is hereby adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President, and may I ask for a minute suspension so we can give the resolution to our boxing champion.
Session suspended to allow ourselves to have a photo opportunity with the boxing champ.
Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2021 under Committee Report number 59. This is the bill on institutionalizing the Shared Service Facilities Project for MSMEs. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection to the motion. Motion is approved.
Mr. President, the parliamentary status of the measure is that we have sponsored the bill. I now move to open the period of interpellations and debate and recognize the sponsor, Senator Sani Angara, and to interpellate our minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel. So move, Mr. President.
Our distinguished colleague from the province of Aurora, Senator Angara, to sponsors recognize and to interpolate the distinguished minority floor leader, Senator Coco Pimentel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. Good evening, dear colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of our very hardworking sponsor, who I think
Most willing.
is sponsoring this in a special capacity, I think. Mr.
Yes,
President. So you
just the
see?
chair of the
You see-
subcommittee.
You see how hardworking our sponsor is, Mr. President? Yes, so he volunteered for additional work, Mr. President. So thank you, Mr. President.
So we can embellish the legacy of our Senate President, Minority Leader.
Of the Senate, Your Honors. It's a team effort.
Yes, Mr. President. This is a very short bill actually, and it, as far as I understand it, it amends RA 6977, which is the Magna Carta for small enterprises, which we reviewed, that mother law. And this is actually a new subject matter in the said law. And the objective of the measure under consideration is to institutionalize this program of the DTI called Shared Services Facilities, Mr. President. Ngayon, as far as I know, Mr. President, I think this is already an existing program of the DTI, and it has been implemented already for quite a time now, Mr. President. And that was without need of a law. So why do we need this measure, Mr. President, to continue with this program of the DTI?
Yes, I confirm everything, all the information given by the distinguished Minority Leader, Mr. President. And it's a relatively new project. I think the first year of its implementation was 2013, Your Honor. But I noticed that there were years where it was not included in the National Expenditure Program. I think that's 2015. And there were also years, I think there were about 3 or 4 years, where there was no budget given for capital outlay. And given that it seems that the experience has been positive with the Shared Services Facilities Program, then it would be a good idea to institutionalize it, having seen its implementation for a decade or so, and perhaps to strengthen its continuity, Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, we have seen around more or less 10 years of this shared services facility as a program under the DTI. And according to our sponsor, there have been years where Congress funded it. There have been years when Congress did not fund the SSF. Will institutionalizing a program like the SSF mean that Congress will now be mandated to provide funding for the program, Mr. President?
I think it would strengthen the claim of the department or the program to entitlement to funding. Although it's not, I don't say it's an automatic guarantee, given that there are some laws which have been unfunded mandates in the past, Your Honor. So it's still, in the end, it's still incumbent upon us lawmakers to make sure that there's funding included in the yearly GAA.
In the years, Mr. President, when SSF under DTI was not funded, when we say not funded, talaga po bang zero?
Zero talaga, Mr.
Zero
President.
talaga. So in those years, Mr. President,
what happened? Did DTI not include the SSF as an item in its budget? Or did the DBM delete the item for the SSF in the NEP? Is that what, as far as the sponsor can remember, Mr. President?
It was not included in the NEP, definitely. Whether it was included, we'll have to dig deeper, Mr. President, kung talagang hindi sinama ng DTI sa Tier 1 or Tier 2 presentation nila. I'll find out.
Yun ang
Mr.
gusto
President.
ko malaman, Mr. President, kasi kung believe tayo sa program eh.
Opo, opo.
Ang tanong natin si agency, bakit may taon na,
hindi pinapasa?
bakit may years na zero si SSF, unless it was during the budget process at the executive level, Mr. President, but already beyond the DTI level.
I just received the information, Mr. President, Your Honor, that the DTI has always included it in its budget presentation, but in those years, I think it did not make it to the NEP. So I guess the assumption there is that the DBM cut it from the
Yes.
National Expenditure Program.
So that means merong at least agency or functionary sa executive branch na hindi bumilib sa SSF program ng DTI, Mr. President. So maybe it's about time, Mr. President, to spread into the records of the Senate what are the success stories of the SSF program, Mr. President, or the achievements of the program?
Yes, Mr. President. There are now 2,644 shared service facilities or SSFs in every region of the country. And I'm just awaiting the
2,600.
data on the, this is for several industries, including businesses related to processed food, coconut, cocoa coir, bamboo, meat, coffee, abaca, dairy, cacao, veggie noodles, milk fish, muscovado. Yung mga success stories. Specific. Muscovado, calamansi, pineapple, seaweed, tuna, gifts, decor, and houseware, handicrafts, furniture and furnishings, metal and metalworks, fashion accessories, ceramics, and pottery, among others. I'm just waiting for the very specific success stories and the demonstration of the success of the SSF. Here are a few examples, Mr. President. There is the, yes. If we have slides, can we put it on so we can see them? Mr. President, Your Honor, we have the Bagong Barrio Multipurpose Cooperative in Pandi, Bulacan, the home province of our majority leader, the computerized embroidery SSF. The Bagong Barrio Multipurpose Cooperative, or BBMPC, is a cooperative where 95% of its members are engaged in gowns and barong making. And one of the major processes involved is embroidery that makes the product appealing to the buyers. So the key factor here was the difficulty of embroidery. So with the provision of a computerized embroidery machine in 2014, the usual production time of typical 1 to 2 pieces per day was multiplied to several pieces, increasing the production volume at lesser cost and increasing the productivity of the SMEs and the production cost from 50 to 60 pesos per piece to 35 pesos per piece. So increasing the profits, Your Honor. And the sales of this cooperative increased by around 120% from the start of its operation in August 2015, from 1.35 million pesos to 3.04 million pesos, Your Honor. Second, there is the example of the Philippine Ceramics Arts and Crafts in Tiwi, Albay. These facilities have created ceramic MSMEs. The number of ceramic producers increased from 34 to 45, and the cooperator was provided with a potter's wheel, a transport trolley, a motorized clay slicer, and a hydraulic press, among others, Your Honor, Mr. President. Yes. And it attracted new producers, especially with the upsurge for pottery products, which occurred during the pandemic, Your Honor. So more visitors and consumers went to Phil Ceramics to purchase terracotta and pottery, especially garden accessories, Mr. President. And their products, the products of the Phil Ceramic Arts and Crafts of Tiwi Albay, are showcased in all of the OTOP stores, the One Town, One Product stores, Your Honor, as well as the pasalubong shops and online stores in Region 5. Another example is the Pandan and Bariu Bag Making SSF. This is given to the Santo Niño de Plaridel Parish Multipurpose Cooperative in Baybay, Leyte. We are using their SSF facilities. Production of their Pandan and Bariu products greatly increased from an average production of 375 bags per month to 800 bags per month. In addition, the SSF also enabled its users to elevate a simple bayong into bags of various styles. And the cooperator here, the cooperator is the recipient of the SSF, Your Honor, Mr. President, was provided with sewing machines and edging machines in 2014. And the cost of their production was reduced because the raw materials were maximized. Even yung dating waste materials nagamit daw nila into other souvenir items. And these sewing machines are also available to other producers. So with the help of this, the MSMEs were also able to participate in trade fairs and expand their markets by getting buyers from Manila and Cebu, but also, and now they're also indirectly exporting to the US and Indonesia. Your Honor, there's also the loom weaving SSF in Tubigon, Bohol. The SSF allowed the cooperative to do finer weave work, which is a big leap on its product and design direction to meet the requirements of the furniture and furnishings market that it wanted to target. Here, the recipient was provided with hand looms, dyeing and drying tools and equipment, and edging machines. And it improved their product lines using the SSF looms. And they are now priced, they used to sell their, tama ba to? Selling to? Yes. They used to sell their fabric at 96 to 140 pesos per meter, and now are now selling them at an average of 321 to 400 pesos per meter, given the improved product that they have. And they're now also work out for a wider fabric. What is that? What is that?
So big.
And they're able to produce larger pieces of fabric. So it's no longer just for clothing, Mr. President, but it's also, they have now also received interest from exporters, architects, and engineers, because these wider or larger fabrics have potential for architectural and engineering applications. And so they're also have also gotten interest from local resorts in Bohol, as well as to balikbayan and souvenir shops in Cebu and Manila. And lastly, one example is the coconut processing SSF in Pantucan, Compostela Valley, Your Honor, Mr. President. And here the cooperative has increased its production line and is now exporting many of its products like virgin coconut oil, soap, and bath and beauty products to Japan. So these are some of the success stories around the country, Your Honor, Mr. President. And perhaps you have heard of some, since at one time you were also the very hardworking chair of the Trade and Industry Committee, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. President, I've heard of the SSF program. But then I want to go into the mechanics of the program, Mr. President. Are the equipment given to the cooperative, or because I'm misled by the word shared in the first S in the SSF shared services facility, Mr. President. It may be shared among the members of the co-op, but my co-op recipient. But my question is, can other co-ops or other micro and small entities or enterprises also access the DTI equipment under the responsibility of a certain co-op, Mr. President?
Your Honor, I was told that usually customary to have a use of rack agreement of 2 years, and if they see that it's successful, they're willing to give it to the recipient. So the term used is cooperators for the recipients of the SSF, and it can range from an LGU, a local government unit. It can also be a state university and college. It can be a higher education institution. It can also be a cooperative. And also a trade association, Mr. President, like in Marikina, it's the Philippine Footwear Association, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. President. So it's a program under the DTI where the DTI makes a grant to a specific recipient. In the initial stages under a use of RAC agreement,
Yes,
but
Your
then
Honor.
if it turns out to be successful, there's a donation.
Yes, Your Honor. It is if they see that it's napapakinabangan, nakakatulong, binibigay na po nila.
Okay, so ang buong akala ko kasi, Mr. President, it's a center operated by the DTI with different kinds of equipment and then accredited micro and small entrepreneurs or enterprises or co-ops may on schedule basis access the machinery and equipment, Mr. President. Or is there such a shared services facility which is not really a direct donation to a beneficiary, Mr. President?
My question, sagutin. Is there a facility that is not a direct grant?
Ano yan?
A 2023, 2020. Meaning operated by DTI.
Malaki pala din. 2021, kaya? Malaki pala. Ano dito yung pambili nila? Pambinili nila?
There's only one, Your Honor. It's the PTTC or Philippine Trade Training Center on Ross Boulevard. But the rest are operated by, as I mentioned earlier, as the LGUs, the SUCs, the co-ops, and the trade associations, Your Honor.
Yes, and the operators or the recipients can implement an exclusive use policy over the equipment, Mr. President?
No, Your Honor. It's supposed to be a shared facility. And but they're allowed to charge a minimal cost, which must always be lower than the market rate. Because the idea is they can charge a cost which would go towards the maintenance of the machines, Your Honor. But the philosophy here is not to exclude the actors from its usage, Your Honor.
So I'm glad to hear that, Mr. President. And in theory, at least ganon, the equipment, the machinery might have been donated or given directly to a certain co-op or cooperator, yet that recipient is under the obligation or responsibility to allow access to the said machinery or equipment by other cooperatives and other enterprises. Okay, so that's a good news, Mr. President. Although, ang reklamo kasing natatanggap din natin ay pagdating doon sa isang so this may be against the regulations. Siguro DTI will just have to enforce the regulations. Ang reklamo natatanggap po natin is pag may nakatanggap na isang entity na parang na
Breaking the
ano tawag mo dun? Hindi na. Na monopolize. Monopolize na po yung paggamit po ng makinarya. So if that is against the regulations of the program, it's just incumbent upon the DTI to enforce the mechanics of the program.
You're 100% correct, Your Honor. In fact, there is as part of the memorandum of agreement for use of RAC, there is a condition there that pwedeng bawiin yun pagka may violation yung cooperator, Your Honor.
Siguro
Pero tama ka, it's a matter of enforcement, Your Honor.
Siguro those who have some grievances should be able to to inform the DTI of their grievance so the DTI can act on the grievance, Mr. President. So gano'n na lang siguro.
We agree with that 100%.
An improvement, sabihin na lang ng DTI na tell us kung may problema. Mr. President, my staff has given me the figure that in the 2021 budget, we budgeted 623,132,000 for the SSF. Is my figure?
That's the correct figure, Your Honor.
So, okay, was this the amount? Was this amount? I'm sure this amount, the bulk of this amount was probably used to buy equipment, machinery, which were given out to or lent out to the cooperators, Mr. President.
That's correct, Your Honor. 545 million is for capital outlay and 78 million or so is for MOE, Your Honor.
So to implement the program, we spend around 70 to 80 million a year just to implement the program. But then for the goods, for the machinery and the equipment, which are the essential components of the program, doon tayo paiba-iba. We do not have a yearly average, but we have a year where we spend 545 million and there are years where we spend zero.
That's
For this year yata, Mr. President, they inform me it's 10 million.
That's correct, Your Honor.
For yes, 10 million pesos for equipment. So, kumusta na po yung ano? How was the year 2022, the calendar year after 2021, where we were supposed to have spent 545 million in equipment and machinery? Ano po mga binili po natin dito? Saan napunta at kumusta na po?
He's asking about the 545 million capital outlay. Where's the breakdown for that? Yeah, for 2020, you're correct, Your Honor. For 2022, wala pong capital outlay. That was one of the years we spoke about earlier where there was no capital outlay, and the only outlay for SSF was for maintenance and other operating expenses. I'm just awaiting the breakdown of the 545 million from 2021. But what kind? He's asking what kind of equipment. So while we're waiting for the qualitative description of or breakdown of the 500 million, Your Honor, what I've been given is a breakdown per region. So of that, there was a disbursal of 404 million in 2021, and 9 SSFs were given in NCR, 54 in Region 1, 39 in Region 2, 15 in CAR, 23 in Region 3, 5 in Region 4A, 9 in Region 4B, 47 in Region 5, 19 in Region 6, 17 in Region 7, 24 in Region 8, 71 in Region 9, 48 in Region 10, 47 in Region 11, 22 in Region 12, 27 in Region 13, Your Honor.
Siguro po yung mga success stories natin kanina, baka yung mga makinarya doon galing dito sa 2021 budget po. Yung kanina. Well, siguro, Mr. President, ano na lang,
We will give to you the breakdown, Your Honor. We have with us the people from DTI, and I think they're retrieving the data.
Tapos siguro parang tinitignan ko na rin yung absorptive capacity of the program. Bakit? Kasi there were years na zero, may years na 545, baka it would have been better kung let us say 3 years na tag to 200, baka mas manageable, Mr. President. So,
yes.
yes, if the entire budget was utilized in 1 year, calendar year, Mr. President, so that means the program has absorptive capacity. Ngayon, Mr. President, in our bill, Section 1, which amends Section 16 of RA 6977, the second paragraph provides for the establishment of the SSF fabrication laboratories. Ito po ba'y bago na konsepto?
When was the first Fab Lab? The Fab Lab, Your Honor, or the fabrication laboratory is a more advanced type of SSF, Your Honor. And it ranges from 5 to 40 million. And so it's not new in a sense, because even at the inception of the program in 2014, there were already some given out, Your Honor. So a lot of these are in the state universities and colleges. And in fact, some of them were able to fabricate some PPEs during the pandemic, Your Honor. And I think the idea behind a Fab Lab is to have a higher level of innovation, to be able to produce more advanced products, which are there's some research and development involved, some state-of-the-art machines and equipment, and they're trying to take advantage of collaboration between the academe and industry. So there is a lot of R&D already going on in the state universities and colleges, and that's a way of rolling out the ideas already. So one example is there's this Fab Lab Mindanao. Saan to?
Saan pala puro lugar to?
This is in MSU, Mindanao State University, in Marawi City, where there is a what they call a 3D printed mandible or 3D printing for surgical planning. Here they are designing and fabricating surgical planning models, Your Honor, in coordination with the Mindanao chapters of the Philippine Society of Otorhinolaryngology. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Laryngology. This is for head and neck surgery, Your Honor. So instead of importing some of these surgical planning models that the students will use for training, some can be fabricated in the Fab Lab, which is given by the DTI. Another example is the Fab Lab in Masbate, Your Honor, where there are 4 units of reef monitoring structures given, and these are monitoring the reefs and any damage to them in that part of the Philippines, Your Honor. There's a reef system in Batuan, Masbate, Your Honor. Another example is in Bohol, which there is a collaboration with Keio University of Japan, where they're demonstrating what they call the Wiki House, which is a model for temporary shelter that can be used for disasters. So ito parang construction na po sila dahil gumagawa po sila ng mga building because they were given machines that do precision cutting of wood, and they use the joint system where they don't use nails, but they just are able to create structures through the traditional joint system of construction, Your Honor. Tapos meron din pong galansyang, this is in MSU Mindanao also, where they're trying to mimic the galansyang is a bird which spreads its seedlings across vast areas. So they're trying to use drone technology to replicate the movements and the actions of the galansyang bird. So sa MSU Marawi din po 'yan. Tapos meron po yung these are some. There is the Fab Lab UP in UP Cebu, where they can actually fabricate surfboards. Mr. President, we just passed a surfing. We know that surfing is a very popular sport and growing worldwide. So if we can produce or even brand a Philippine-made surfboard, it would be an achievement, I think. And then we have in Iloilo, there is a Fab Lab where in collaboration with the DOST, during the pandemic, they developed a mobile contactless specimen collection booth. I guess the context here is the pandemic, where you have a mobile booth where you prevent clustering of patients and you can get specimens and for the testing facilities and can be deployed to different areas in the country, Your Honor. Tapos meron din pong dun din po sa Iloilo, itong UVC room sanitizing lamp na may frame na kahoy and with an automatic hand sanitizer dispenser. So meron po siyang human induction sensor, remote control, and adjustable timer po. Wala na pong human intervention needed for this, I believe. So they're also collaborating with the Design Center of the Philippines to be able to improve their fabrication, Your Honor. So yun po yung konsepto ng Fab Labs, Mr. President, Your Honor.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. So it's a Fab Lab is a fabrication laboratory. Doesn't the DOST or any of its attached agencies also have a program like this, Mr. President? Parang more of ano to eh.
Baka meron din ho.
Parang may science. Ano rin,
Yeah, that's why one of them was actually a collaboration with DOST, yung pong sa dun sa Iloilo ho, yung paggawa ho nung mobile testing and specimen collection booth, Your Honor.
If I may, Mr. President, just a very quick intervention. There is, Mr. President, there's this so-called CEST, Community Empowerment Through Science and Technology, which DOST is heading, Mr. President, and perhaps it's a good time for me to mention that that is the reason why we are pushing for the Trabaho para sa Bayan bill, Mr. President, so we can harmonize and synergize all these initiatives, Mr. President, in order to serve best our country and people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Majority Leader.
But if this is a DTI program, that means the main purpose would have something to do with the productivity, increasing the productivity of our enterprises, Mr. President,
Originally,
rather
that
than
was
a
the-
scientific research.
Originally, that was the concept, Your Honor. Na talagang yung MSMEs tutulungan maging produktibo and to increase their productivity and increase their, I don't know if the word is cost effectiveness, meaning by producing more efficiently, they're able to maximize their profits. But I think because nga nagkaroon ng Fab Lab, I think it was inspired by, what's the name to an MIT? By an institution at MIT, the Massachusetts Institution of Technology, the Grassroots Invention Group and Center for Bits and Atoms of MIT. Parang merong ganong initiative sa MIT ho na tumutulong ho sa mga local communities to solve local problems, Your Honor. So, parang yun ang konsepto na magkaroon din ng Fab Lab na they can, so each Fab Lab in a sense can localize its or contextualize its solutions or its products so as to tailor to what the community needs, Your Honor. So yun po ang naging idea dyan. But you're right, there is definitely a dovetail or a possible replication with DOST, and perhaps we should ask the agency to ensure that there is no wastage of public resources. Dapat may synergy dun sa kanilang mga efforts, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. President, but so this is still SSF, except that, it's medyo high-tech laboratory, and then maybe the sponsor, His Honor mentioned 5 to 40 million pesos for the Fab Lab, meaning to say maybe the normal SSF equipment or machinery would be less than that amount.
Opo,
So,
dahil nakikita ko yung mga figures, parang may in the hundreds of thousands lang.
Yun yung the
Opo.
normal, the regular SSF. We have the SSF's Fab Lab. Yes, Fab Lab, which would be equipment with more scientific content. So what we call high-tech equipment, more expensive. But the mechanics of the program would be the same as the regular SSF. Ganun po ba yun? That there will now be a recipient. The recipient still has that obligation to share access to the machinery and equipment to other micro and small and enterprises and cooperatives.
I think they're a little more stringent when it comes to the procedural aspects, Your Honor. Like pagka over 5 million, it must be the national DTI that approves it. Whereas dun sa 5 million and below, parang may authority yung regional directors to approve projects 5 million and below. And I think looking at the list, at least initially of the Fab Labs, the 43, para karamihan po nasa state universities and colleges. So I think they're looking for a certain level of training and learning, so as because siguro hindi makayanan yun ng anybody who comes in from the street, Your Honor, because precisely there's a certain skill needed for operation, and I guess logistically they also need to house more expensive equipment, Your Honor. Kaya siguro mas maingat sila dun sa paglagay po ng mga kagamitan nila.
Sige po, at least naklaro po that this is really although SSF, it's a different kind of program with different mechanics, different rules, maybe different qualifications, Mr. President. So, saan po mahanap yun? saan po natin mahanap yung mechanics or details of the SSF Fab Lab program, Mr. President? Para naman yung gustong mag-avail, because ang pwede yata mag-take advantage nito according to our bill would be state universities and colleges, local universities or colleges, even private schools,
Or the national.
and then even the province-run academic training institutions can be beneficiaries, Mr. President.
Physically, if you're gonna apply, where do you apply?
They apply to the DTI, Your Honors, whether it's in the region or the national. And there is a DTI memorandum order. This is Memorandum Order 21-1095. This was issued September 2021. And that has established the standards and processes for the implementation of the project. Nandun po yung requirements, yung requirements nung to be a cooperator, states the purpose, the eligible projects, the criteria for selecting, how you submit your proposal, then how they evaluate. There's even a mention of the criteria for evaluation, whether it has a high impact ratio, the facilities needed for expansion of a ready market, etc., among other things. No, there is also a mention of the approval process, who approves, depending on the amount, as we mentioned earlier, and the need for a use-of-fract agreement, and a mention of the criteria for the SSF to be considered, which is a 10% increase in the number of beneficiaries, a 10% increase in sales or income generated. So things like that are mentioned in this memorandum order, which is 28 pages, Your Honor. I'll be happy to furnish you a copy, Your Honor.
So thank you for that, Mr. President. Just one final point, Mr. President, because these two sections of our bill would be the, as far as I know, the only two legal provisions which mention the SSF program and then the SSS Fab Lab program, Mr. President. Doesn't the sponsor feel the need to also mention in the law at least the general parameters of the program? Ang aking point kasi, Mr. President, if the DTI changes their circular or their memorandum concerning SSF, in effect, they also automatically amend the program which we have already approved, Mr. President.
That's a very good point, very interesting point you raised, Mr. President. I used to think that the legislation was better the more specific it was, because then the lawmaker can really what it is in a sense, Mr. President, because then given how fast or how rapid economic changes, how rapid technological changes, then perhaps that's my personal view, Your Honor. But having said that, if the more general law is, then it can adapt to the changing times, Your Honor. But having said that, I'll be happy to accept any proposed amendments should you wish to further detail the programs, Your Honor. Because for now, the needs of communities are maybe sewing machines, computers, digital printing, but we don't know in the future. We don't know what kind of machines it would be, Mr. President. So if you ask me, that's my personal opinion, and I could be very much wrong in that, Mr. President.
So maybe, Mr. President, if you just give us a little more time, maybe an additional section, at least defining or describing what this current DTI SSF program is, Mr. President. Para more or less we know what we are approving na, and not really just referring to an administrative issuance, Mr. President.
Yes, certainly, Your Honor. I think I would be very much open to that, Your Honor.
So thank you, Mr. President. I think this is a good program, especially when the equipment and the machineries are shared kasi not all the micro and small enterprises and the cooperatives can afford to each buy, di ba? So the idea is the state buys it for you but you share and then ano lang yan, time management lang po yan, easy schedule. I hope that we will be able to graduate to such a setup, Mr. President, hindi yung bigay talaga sa isang user lang and then appropriated by that user. Nawala yung meaning ng shared. So it was shared by the state or the government, but I think we want the different enterprises and the cooperatives to be able to tolerate each other, cooperate with each other in the shared use of equipment or machinery given by the state, Mr. President. So, and then of course we really have to, if we pass this into law, Mr. President, we have to put our money where our mouth is. So we have to fund this program, Mr. President. At hindi siguro parang roller coaster na 500 million isang taon, the following year, zero. Parang hindi mo maintindihan. Ano ba ito? Importante o hindi importante, Mr. President?
Yes, Your Honor. I completely agree with you on the point you made about funding, as well as the point about sharing. I think you're correct there, Your Honor.
So thank you, Mr. President, for Mr. Sponsor, for the patience and the time you've given me. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our distinguished and brilliant Minority Leader, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, Mr. President is another supporter of this program, but would like to give some clarificatory questions, Mr. President. I move that our distinguished colleague, the distinguished lady from the city of Taguig and Pateros, Senator Pia Cayetano, be recognized.
Our distinguished colleague, Senator Pia Cayetano, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, Majority Floor Leader. I was listening to the interpellation of our Minority Floor Leader, and many of my questions were already answered.
Oh, thank
So,
you.
as the Majority Floor Leader said, it's mostly statement of support. And then I'll just pose some questions in the interest of time. Sa madaling salita, minamadali ako ng Majority Floor Leader. I will pose a series of questions, and His Honor is free to respond or even tell me that we can take it up during the period of amendments. Because really, they're just clarificatory. I fully support the measure, Your Honors.
Thank
So-
you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Just to start, to put on record that my interest here is as your chairman of the Committee on Sustainable Development Goals, Innovations and Futures Thinking, SDG number 8, decent work and economic growth. There are very specific targets that really are aimed at achieving higher levels of economic productivity, promoting development-oriented policies that support productive activities, having targets that substantially reduce the proportion of youth that are not employed, and devising and implementing policies to promote sustainable tourism, which is big in our country. And then under SDG 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, increase the access of small-scale industries and other enterprises, enhance scientific research, upgrade the technological capacities of industrial sectors, and so on and so forth. So that is what I am starting with, because this bill is in line with these SDGs, Your Honor. And I'd like to take off from what I heard from the Minority Floor Leaders interpellation, just for, it's top of mind, first in, first out. So sa akin, last out, first out also of my my mind. The Majority Floor Leader was mentioning about the actual scope, no? That's my understanding, scope of the bill. Ano bang klaseng mga facilities to? And I tend to agree with His Honor, because as a advocate of futures thinking, the future is really changing very, very rapidly. So I would suggest that DTI gives us a description that addresses the concern of the Minority Floor Leader, but is quite open-ended, because what is patok na patok today may not be in demand tomorrow. So I would have a hard time if His Honor, who graduates in 2 years, will leave us with a bill that is not reflective of the demands in the next 3 years. So that's my first input, Your Honor. And I will take that as a yes if you don't have any objections to my statement. And then the other concern I have, again, somehow connected to the questions propounded earlier, is the capacity of each of these facilities. I understand the concern of the minority floor leader that we would want to ensure that the community has access. But it is for DTI, Your Honor, I believe, to also be clear about what is the capacity, no? Because I can visualize na, let's just say, and all of us have gone to countries and we are all promoting OTAP, di ba? Tapos naglagay ang DTI ng banana manufacturing facility. Lahat gusto pumunta doon. Tapos makakatanggap ng complaint ang office ni Senator Angara, ng Majority Floor Leader, Minority Floor Leader, hindi ho kami pinapasok doon. Hindi ho pinrasis yung mga saging namin. Kasi there is such a thing as a maximum capacity, di ba? So liwanagin nyo lahat yan para hindi magagalit ang tao, because it's one thing to say na open yan sa lahat, walang i-discriminate, pero masisira naman yung makina na yan pagka hindi nyo naman pinatigil. And I go to my next concern, yun nga, I'm very happy that we are availing of the expertise, the facilities, the property of the SUCs. But not all of them have open space or even roofs to hold these facilities. So may kasama bang budget yan, no? Because I assume, para umiksi na yung ating interpellation, I assume naman na all of this was studied. But again, I'm saying I handle the budget of SUCs and ultimately it's the sponsor who will approve my recommendations. Siguro we have to be prepared for that, no? Na the demand for this will grow. It's a great project, but let's be prepared not just for the equipment, but the facilities that will house that equipment.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Your Honor. At saka, thank you for raising that regarding the capacity of the machines, because we want to make sure the usage of these machines is sustainable going forward, Your Honor. And of course, I totally agree with you. We should provide funds for the housing. So I think that's also one of the requirements before they approve the agreement with the cooperator or the recipient.
Correct.
That there must be
proper-
some capacity to maintain, to secure, some staff who are knowledgeable in the operation to ensure that hindi basta-basta masisira yon. At at dun sa sinabi nyo, minsan nga hindi pinapagamit kasi alam nilang hindi kayang gamitin nung
Kaya, yes.
parang baka masisira lang.
Your Honor, I will remind you, many of us here who supported the what's the name of the term? Simulation lab of PGH. It is really a futures project that ano yan, ang tagal ho niya na FLR, and then inulit pa natin yung second phase ng budget noon. The next year, nandun pa rin tayo sa first phase kasi na FLR naman siya sa first phase. I'm just saying, Your Honor, and I'd like to illustrate, no, ito yung parang imbis na a real body, a human cadaver ang ino-operate, instead of a cadaver that is being used, I was trying to avoid the word practice, was being used to train our future doctors, it is now a simulator. Even panganganak pwede. But it wasn't cheap. And so anyway, after we funded it, of course, after that, nandun na yung MOE, nandun na yung PS, nandun lahat yon, nakatago lahat yon.
Nanganganak po.
Nanganganak yung gastos, which kayo din naman ang mamumroblema eventually. So I'm just being very mindful na I love the project. Let's be clear about the expenses because we want to support. And I think last point ko na po ito, many of you, I'm sure, like I have been invited to the fairs and exhibits in SUCs or even private universities. And it's amazing what you see there. But then you go there 5 years later and yun pa rin yung exhibit. There's this huge gap between innovation and transitioning to production. So perhaps His Honor can just give a very short reply to this. But I assume already the answer is yes, this bill attempts to address that because precisely kaya ka nga may manufacturing facilities para we can go from innovation to manufacturing. But I note with pride that there is this second paragraph in section 1, yung fabrication lab, fab labs, which is the higher end, no? And this is where it's very critical kasi Diyan tayo nahihirapan. I'd love basic facilities to manufacture and have longer shelf life for kamote, for banana, what other fruit products we have, durian, langka, lahat yan. Pero yung Fab Lab talaga is another level, yung mga tipong prosthetics, exactly the ones that you pointed out, Your Honor, in your presentation. And my point being is, makita na talaga natin na we're manufacturing like prosthetics. Do we have such a thing? I know we have. I just don't know how high end. I imagine there are many others out there. So I use that example because I come across it quite a bit, and it would be great if we can have more of this available. If not, then we can include that in the list.
Yes, Your Honor. You mentioned prosthetic. I think it falls within that realm of science or medicine.
Yes, health. Yes.
Meron ho kasi. And ito yung they're manufacturing the mandibles. The term is mandible. What is that?
Yung sa jaw, sir.
Yeah, it's a replica of the jaw, so they
Yeah,
can,
you showed that.
so
Oo.
they can operate and practice on it, Your Honor.
Okay.
So that's one example, and I think we can move on from that because that one is in MSU. So if we can, I think it dovetails with some of your initiatives and the majority leaders' initiatives, yung Doktor para sa Bayan.
Yes,
I know you're also studying. You've also pointed out numerous times the need to supplement these measures with also other medical
Allied health professionals.
allied health. I was looking for I was trying to retrieve the proper term, Your Honor. So I know you're concerned about this, and but definitely, if we can move on these developments or on these initiatives on several fronts, then perhaps we could get to our goal faster, Your Honor.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'll end by requesting to be a co-author of this measure, and only as needed. Sorry, one last point. In the second, what is this one? Second paragraph of section 1, it refers to the priority going to provinces without existing Fab Labs. I think it goes without saying, but I also want to protect DTI. It's like the Doktor para sa Bayan. We'll point out the areas na walang med school doon. Eh, hindi naman makapagpatayo ng med school doon dahil walang ospital kung saan magte-training yung mga doktor. Walang partner hospital yung med school, and then there aren't even enough allied profession. Hindi naman pwedeng lahat ng doktor nila galing sa nursing. You want a pool of doctors that have diverse backgrounds. So I'm just saying the same thing na we might want to check the wording of that na priority, but also based on where the demands are.
I agree with you, Your Honor. In fact, at some point, that provision will become obsolete or outdated because every province will have one, and then you'll need you'll need a provision to govern the future provision of SSF. So we'll try to see how we can reword that, Your Honor, so that the applicability of the SSF is provided for, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you. Thank you. It would be an honor. Thank you for your co-authorship. It would be an honor for the chair of the Futures Thinking Committee and the very hardworking vice chair of the Finance Committee on Health, Education, and other very important human development initiatives and budgets, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, there being no member who wishes to interpolate, I move that we close the period of interpellation. So move, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, other than Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Lauren Ligarda would also like to be made co-author of Senate Bill number 2022. I just want to put that on record, Mr. President.
So noted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2021. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? There being none, consideration of measure is suspended.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you, Mr. President, dear colleagues. And Minority Leader, thank you po.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we transfer from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders. Committee Report number 64 on Senate Bill number 2165, This is the bill on automatic income classification of local government units. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 2165 under Committee Report number 64. So move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved. Consideration of Senate Bill number 2165 is now in order. With the permission of the body, the Secretary will now read the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting to the record the whole text thereof.
An act institutionalizing the automatic income classification of provinces, cities, and municipalities, and for other purposes.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, may we recognize our Deputy Majority Leader, the hardworking senator from the city of San Juan, Senator J.V. Ejercito, Chairperson of the Committee on Local Government, to deliver the sponsorship speech. So move, Mr. President.
There being no objection, we'd like to recognize Senator J.V. Ejercito to sponsor the measure.
Mr. President, honorable members of the Senate, good afternoon. As chairperson of the Committee on Local Government, I have the honor to report back this August body Senate Bill number 2165 in substitution of Senate Bill number 1530, authored by this representation and Senator Joel Villanueva, Senate Bill number 1913 by Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr., and Senate Bill number 2067 by Senator Win Gatchalian, taking into consideration House Bill number 7006. This measure pertains to the automatic income classification for local government units. Mr. President, this measure has two objectives. First, it aims to institutionalize the automatic classification of the local government units. Provinces, cities, and municipalities shall be classified into 6 income classes that will truly reflect their financial capability and position. Second, this bill seeks to grant authority to the Secretary of Finance to regularly reclassify the LGUs every 3 years and review or revise the income ranges provided in the substitute bill. It should be noted that the last income reclassification of LGUs was made in 2008 before the issuance of an adverse opinion from the Department of Justice regarding the power of the Secretary of Finance to adjust the income ranges provided under Executive Order 249 dated July 26, 1987. This means that the current classification for LGUs are based on an outdated revenue figures, or more specifically on their 2004 to 2007 financial statements. Mr. President, there is an outstanding 141 requests from various LGUs submitted to the Department of Finance asking the Secretary for Income reclassification. DOF also informed the committee of an LGU that wanted to self-classify through a local ordinance. Our substitute bill intends to resolve this predicament where the LGUs are left with no recourse because of an outdated law on an income classification. But what is the purpose of classifying our LGUs? How does it translate to development, and what benefits do our people get from it? We have spelled out in the bill the several uses of income classification. It not only determines the LGU's financial capability to undertake developmental programs, but it also has implications on compensation, adjustment for LGU personnel, and the determination of administrative aids, financial grants, and other forms of assistance to local governments. The income classification even serves as basis for the minimum wage of domestic workers under the Kasambahay Law, among other purposes. Your Committee on Local Government would like to highlight the following salient provisions of the bill. First, the bill fixes the reclassification of LGUs every 3 years to synchronize with the term of local elected officials. This will foster accountability and promote competitiveness and creativity to improve local revenues. Second, we have set the income thresholds for provinces, cities, and municipalities. This will ensure that the income ranges are equitably set by Congress and is not left entirely to the discretion of the implementing agency. Third, the bill clearly defines the power of the Secretary of Finance to regularly reclassify the LGUs, and more importantly, to review and revise the income ranges. In addition, the bill also empowers the Secretary to classify an LGU which is created before the regular reclassification. A newly created city, for instance, did not carry its income classification when it was still a municipality. And lastly, we have provided a transitory provision to ensure that during the first reclassification as provided in our measure, No LGU will be downgraded, provided that the concerned LGU will not continue to fall below its income range during the next reclassification. Further, the measure ensures that no official or employee in the concerned LGU shall suffer any diminution of salary and benefits only during the first income reclassification. Mr. President, many of us here started our humble beginnings in public service in the local government units. I trust that we understand the importance of this measure in realizing the full economic potential of LGUs. Knowing the LGU's financial capabilities and position will also aid the national government in determining the intervention needed to improve their situation and in order to promote and strengthen local autonomy. I believe that it is for this purpose that this measure is included in the priority legislative measures of this administration. Your Committee on Local Government is privileged to report a legislative measure that will not only correct the oversights in the past legislation, but will also address the present needs of our LGUs, and more importantly, this measure will withstand the challenges of time. This humble representation calls for our colleagues' support and recommends the approval of Senate Bill number 2165 under Committee Report number 64. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, our distinguished colleague, Senator J.V. Ejercito. Majority Leader? Oh, yes, Senator Cayetano, recognized.
May I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
Is Senator Jinggoy supporting that bill?
I suppose so.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, to answer that question, Mr. President, Senators Revilla, Gatchalian, and Senator Jinggoy Estrada wanted to insert for the record their co-sponsorship speech.
There you go.
So let it be placed into the records.
No, the reason I asked, Mr. President, is that all of these gentlemen who want to support and sponsor are former local chief executives.
Correct.
So I wanted to know if there's a consensus, not only among the brothers, but among the former local chief executives.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, we will tackle that soon, Mr. President. But for now, I will move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2165 under Committee Report number 64. So move, Mr. President.
There be no objection, motion is approved.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1964 under Committee Report number 40. This is the Kabalikat sa Pagtuturo Act. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the parliamentary status of the measure is that we have sponsored the bill, and I now move to open the period of interpellations and debate and recognize the sponsor, the distinguished gentleman from the great province of Cavite, Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr.
Our distinguished colleague, Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr. is recognized.
Mr. President, first to interpolate the measure is the distinguished lady from the city of Taguig and Pateros, no other than Senator Pia Cayetano. I move that she be recognized, Mr.
Our
President.
distinguished colleague, Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I told the sponsor that I would be very brief. My concerns with the permission of the sponsor, if I may just continue
yes.
to put it, to mention it now, are basically related to the fact that I defend the budget of Department of Education. So, sa madaling salita, sa akin din mapupunta
That's correct.
ang not implementation, pero yung budget na yan, tapos ipopropose ko lang naman sa chairman natin na sasakit ang ulo niya. Saan niya hanapin yung pondo. Kaya yun lang naman sa akin kasi I don't think anyone, I don't think there is anyone in this entire chamber who would object to supporting the measure in terms of the objective that it has. But my line of questioning, and I told His Honor that we can discuss it during the period of amendment for simplicity's sake, because it's really just to put on record these concerns, is what is the total budget that we are looking at to fulfill the mandate of this bill? How many teachers are we referring to, or how many teachers are going to be covered? How much is that total versus, because we do have a budget the past few years that already covers that. but this is going to be bigger. So those are the numbers that I just need clarity on, Your Honors, because when the time for the budget debate happens, we will take it up anyway.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
So,
Mr. President.
so I leave it up to His Honor if he.
We'll just discuss it during the period of amendments.
It's his
okay.
Honor's choice if whatever he prefers.
I don't mind answering it. Ang nakalagay po sa ating GAAT as of now, it's 5,000, no? Ang matatanggap ng ating mga teachers. That is equivalent to 4.5 billion. If we increase it to 7,500 for school year 2023 to 2024, that's additional 2.2 billion sa 37 pesos each teacher sa makakatanggap. If we will further increase it to 10,000 for the year 2024 to 2025, that's additional 2.2 billion. Ang magiging total po niyan is 9 billion. Sa at present po, 4.5.
Yeah.
So by after 3 years, magiging 9B.
May nakuha ho ba kayong statement from DBM if they will be able to support this?
Yes, in fact, Mr. President, kausap ko po si Secretary kahapon at pinaliwanag ko sa kanya kung bakit natin kailangan ibigay ito sa ating mga guro. And she understands and she's very much willing to support this measure.
Thank you. Your Honor, my last, this is more of a statement rather than a question. I am fully supportive of the need to support our teachers, but I also want to put on record that there is a, well, we all know that there is EDCOM 2, which is chaired by our Basic Education Committee Chairman, Senator Gatchalian, and we are reviewing many things, many things that need to be funded for the education sector. Top of mind, of course, is the welfare of teachers, but also the need for us to provide them with better education, whether it
right.
is during their preparatory stage, which is when they are still students, and then even later on. So, ang sa akin lang naman, since I handle the budget of DepEd, it will be my 5th year this coming budget season. Mindful lang po ako na napakalaki ang kailangan talagang gastusin for the entire DepEd, the entire DepEd sector, not just for the teachers, not just for their welfare, pero sa lahat. So it is my fervent hope that we will be able to find sufficient funding for all of this. Thank you, Mr. President. Yun lang muna sa ngayon. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you, Senator Pia.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Senator Pia.
Yes, Mr. President. Next to interpolate the measure is our distinguished minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel. I move that he be recognized, Mr.
Our
President.
distinguished minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel, is recognized.
Sa adjustment. Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of our sponsor,
It's an honor to be interpolated by the
Our-
gentleman from Cagayan de Oro
our visionary sponsor, Mr. President,
And Marikina.
and Marikina.
who was looked into the future and wanted to take care of the concerns and welfare of our teachers, Mr. President. Ito po ay tungkol sa teaching supplies allowance for public school teachers. It's a very simple bill, so we will keep the
Exactly. Yeah.
interpellation short and brief, Mr. President. Dati po merong chalk allowance. Ito na po ba yung latest form ng chalk allowance? Ito na po yan.
That's correct, Mr. President. In fact, our records will bear that this measure has been approved by the Senate on third reading noong 17th and 18th Congresses, no? There were no abstentions, no negative votes.
Yes.
Kaya pangatlong approach na natin itong gagawin natin ngayon para po sa ating mga guro na alam nating nagpapakahirap para sa ating mga estudyante.
Kasi sa tunay na buhay, Mr. President, talaga namang meron yata silang ginagastusan na related sa kanilang pagtuturo na talagang galing na sa kanilang bulsa. Kasi
Exactly.
Hindi naman yata na-anticipate o na paghandaan ng DepEd na lahat ng maliliit na gastos konektado sa pagtuturo ay na bibigyan ng item at nare-release po sa kanila. So,
That's
ano-
very correct.
ano po
Mr.
ba mga ehemplo na sa tunay na buhay na yung mga maliliit na gastos na sinasagot na lang ng ating public school teacher?
Ang nangyayari po dyan, Mr. President, ay imbis na gastusin nila yung kanilang sahod para sa pamilya, ay inaabono pa nila, no? Yung pambili ng chalk, ng ballpen, ng mga bond papers, at pagbili ng load, lalo-lalo during the time of the pandemic, itong kainitan, ay ngayon bumabalik ulit. So, yan po yung mga dagdag gastos para sa mga guro. Kaya itong ating pong hinihiling sa kanila, this is less than, I think not even 1% of the total budget of, na allocated sa DepEd.
So parang, yes, Mr. President, parang sinasabi natin na merong siguro mga amounts dyan na hindi na natin na-anticipate. Saluin na nitong teachers
That's correct,
supplies
Mr.
allowance,
President.
Mr. President. Pero can we not improve the budgeting process din sa DepEd so that we can anticipate it, put it in the budget of the DepEd, ma-release sa teacher para mas maproteksyonan po natin yung halaga nitong binibigay natin kasi pakakainin naman ng iba pang mga expenditure na hindi na-anticipate, Mr. President.
That is the main reason, Mr. President, to institutionalize itong budget na binibigay natin sa kanila. Kasi pag hindi natin to ginawa ng batas, pwedeng tanggalin to. Kung sino man yung limbawa, sino yung susunod na uupo dyan, at any given time, they can take that out. Sabihin nila, sobra-sobra na yung sahod na binibigay natin sa mga guro. We can take this out, no? I'm sure naman, hindi naman sila ganon. But, pero ganun pa man, ito ay para masiguro natin na tatanggapin talaga ito ng ating mga guro at maproteksyonan natin sila, Mr. President.
Ang mas maganda nga, Mr. President, Mr. Sponsor, na sana yung binibigay nga natin na halaga, parang tulong na yan sa kanila, na sana hindi na rin yan sasagot sa gastos na opisyal.
Correct.
Diba? Kasi yung opisyal sana nagastos sa pagtuturo, planado na natin sa DepEd at anticipated na po natin. Pwede mo ba malaman ano yung salary scale ng ating pong mga public school teachers para malagay natin sa konteksto po itong allowance na ito?
For teacher 1, Mr. President, at present, no, tumatanggap sila ng 27,000. For teacher 2, 29,000. Teacher 3, 31,000. Master teacher 1, 46,000. Master teacher 2, 51,000. Master teacher 3, 57,000. Master teacher 4, 63,000, Mr. President.
So, marami po bang nag-start doon sa pinakamababang halaga? Marami po yung mga teachers po na ganun?
Ang tinatanong kung meron pa mababa na sa
Hindi maganda pa.
Wala na po, Mr. President.
So
Yung teacher 1 ang
sa reality po, ang
reality.
pinakamababa, magkano po ang sweldo ng pinakamababa?
27,000.
Oh, 27,000, no? And then our teachers, our public school teachers receive 12 months only in a year? Wala 13 months? 13 months?
Asan na yung ano? They're also receiving 13 months.
Yes, must be 13 months because mandated by law, but only 13 months under the law?
Yun.
27,000 daw ang bigay sa teacher?
Ito po yung DepEd salary, yung basic salary for civilian, 17,000. Is this tama ba yan?
17,000.
Hindi. Teka.
Ang liit eh.
Hindi mo. Wala. Ang sahod. Wala dito.
Ito yung amount.
They're receiving teacher benefits and other allowances. Personal Economic Relief Allowance or PERA, they're receiving 2,000 per month. Clothing Uniform Allowance, Budget Circular 2018-1, 6,000 a year. Mid-year bonus, 1 month basic pay or employees, no? Special hardship allowance. The total SHA must not exceed 25% of the annual basic salary given monthly. World Teachers Day incentives, 1,000 per teacher per year. Year-end bonus, 1 month basic pay of the employee. Step increment due to length of service, depending on salary grade table and given every 3 years. Productivity enhancement incentives, 5,000 per year. Cash gift, DBM circular number 2016-4, 5,000 per year. Step increment specializing in teaching science.
Exam sa income tax.
One time, 3 salary step increments depending on the salary grade of the teacher. Loyalty cash incentives, 1,000 for every year of service. Cash allowance, DBM DepEd Joint Circular number 2, 2021, provision 10 of Republic Act 11645, 5,000 subject to GAA special provision per year. Transportation allowance for ALS teachers, 3,000 per month for transportation allowance. Performance-based bonus, maximum 65% of basic monthly salary depending on the school. Proportion vacation pay depending on the salary grade and PVP earned for the year. Proportional vacation pay depending on salary grade, PVP earned by the said year. Proportional vacation pay depending on salary grade, PVP earned for the same year.
Saan dito yung sinabi mo na natin?
Tapos, yun. Teaching overload pay.
Proposed question.
Next time,
Teachers with teaching overload shall be compensated with teaching overload per quarterly following this formula. Well,
Yes, sir.
but still, Mr. President,
Doon po,
marami tayong nabanggit, no? But yun po ay sweldo nila, no? Hindi to teaching supplies.
yes. At saka hindi,
So it's totally different.
at saka hindi po yata lahat nakakatanggap noon.
Nakakatanggap.
Merong iba doon, kailangan
Exactly.
qualify
Yes,
ka.
that's
Opo.
right, Mr. President.
Opo. At saka, ang pagkakaintindi ko po, itong existing nila na teaching supplies allowance of 5,000, expected dito pati yung kanilang medical examination ay dyan na nila
Yes.
kunin. Opo. So
Tama po, Mr. President.
talagang kulang na kulang po ito. Anyway, na-discuss na natin. This is budgetary implication. Nasagot nyo na po yung sa interpellation po ni Senator Pia Cayetano. 2.2 billion pesos increase if we increased it from 5,000 currently to the proposed 7,500.
That's correct, Mr. President.
1 year po yun, ano? Para klaro, para lahat ng alam nila, one school year yun, hindi yun monthly, one school year.
One school year.
Opo.
So, Mr. President, aabot lang sila. For example, yung gagawin natin itong 7,500 for the school year 2023 to 2024, itong madadagdag sa kanila na 2.2 billion ay 37 pesos each day lang, no? So, makukuha nila para sa isang guro. So, 50 pesos naman kung gagawin nating 10,000. 50 pesos, oo, pag ginawa nating 10,000.
Pag-increase na, sa
Pag-increase
susunod
natin,
na
that's
nato.
right. That's right.
Because ilan po ba ang beneficiaries po nitong ating panukala?
904,034 teachers, Mr. President.
All public school teachers and
All public school
qualified. Opo.
public school teachers. That's right.
Opo. Nabanggit po ng ating sponsor, Mr. President, that this was passed in the
17th and 18th
17th and 18th Congress. But is this bill exactly the same as the
No,
version passed in the 17th?
In
and
fact,
18th?
I think last year,
Ano yun?
2,000 lang yung pinropose natin pero dinagdagan pa nila
So the amounts, iba ng amount.
Nag-improve pa, no?
Pinasa-
Ginawa nilang 5,000.
Kasi hindi naman po nakuha yung, hindi naman
Hindi
naging
naman,
batas yung
oo,
before.
that's right, Mr. President.
Pero pagdating po sa, may napansin din po kami, pagdating sa income tax exemption, binago po ba natin yung rule from the older versions that we have passed?
Still the same, Mr. President.
Still the same.
Still the same.
Okay. And I think the threshold, I have been informed by my staff, is 90,000 pesos ata for as long as the benefits, fringe benefits will not exceed more than 90,000 pesos in one taxable year, then the said amount is exempt from income tax. Yan pa.
That's correct. That's
Pasok po dito ang
Apo.
rule po na ito. So, Mr. President, actually, kung may clearance na po ito sa DBM Secretary,
Supplies kasi siya, Mr. President, hindi siya considered income. Kaya hindi siya tinatax.
okay, but we have on page 2, Mr. President, line 8 in our bill, we mention its exemption from that it shall not be subject to income tax. Ano ito? We are just clarifying it, or we are just stating what is already.
Yeah, it's just a reiteration, Mr. President.
So we are not exempting it from income tax. We are just stating what is already the rule, that it is
That's correct,
that
Mr.
it shall not be subject to income tax.
That's correct, Mr.
Sige
President.
po. So, ang ibig sabihin nito, kahit wala itong second paragraph na section 4, it should not really be still taxable income. Aba.
Yes,
Sige,
Mr.
okay.
President.
Para klaro po yun.
Para sa period of amendments, no?
Pwedeng, maybe we can choose to leave it there para sigurado. Kasi meron kasi tayong proviso that mentions the total amount of benefits in the National Internal Revenue Code, which gave this representation the impression that it may be taxable, except that it will not be taxable because for as long as the amount does not exceed the current threshold of 90,000 pesos per taxable year. So, but if the sponsor tells us that this is a surplusage, and if it's safe to delete this paragraph, then we shall do it. But if it's safer to be there para wala ng tanong, we can leave it here, Mr. President.
Okay daw po. It's a safeguard.
Sige. Maybe, but maybe the proviso, we need to, siguro yung proviso po, we have to revisit kasi it gives the impression that we're invoking the exemption from income tax. Yung pala, hindi talaga to, this should not be counted as part in computing the income tax due.
We're open for the
Yes,
amendments,
pag-aralan.
Mr. President.
Kasi sinabi nila,
At the proper time.
per allowance eh. Tanong nyo kay, tanong nyo kay Pierre. Tanong nyo na kay, okay. So, Mr. President, I've heard that na-clear na natin ito kay DBM Secretary, but the point is, in the recent news, it is the DOF Secretary who is now, the Department of Finance Secretary, who is now airing his worry about the sustainability of our expenses, especially in connection with the military uniform personnel pension system. Pero in general, yun sinasabi niya, our expenditures are not sustainable. If tuloy-tuloy ito, there will be a fiscal collapse. So, what is the position of the DOF, Mr. President, on the proposal?
Well, Mr. President, at the end of the day, we will be the one deciding on that. Tayo yung mag-aalat ng pondo at the way I look at it, miski naman kahit sino sa mga kasama natin sa Senado, we do recognize yung hirap ng ating mga guro. And I think additional 4.4 billion ay hindi po siguro makakasakit sa coffer ng ating bansa, no? Or sa ating
Spread over 2 years pa yun, Mr.
Yes.
President.
At ang makikinabang ay 900,000 plus teachers. At yung mga estudyante na matutulungan yan, milyong-milyong estudyante, Mr.
Well, my only point is, of course, the DOF Secretary has access to the ears of the President. And therefore,
Yes,
alam mo,
right.
we do not know.
Very much willing to approach also the President. I think the President will support this measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. And then my last concern, Mr. President, is our proviso in the first paragraph ba ito? In the first paragraph of Section 4, where we provide for the automatic adjustment of the teacher supplies allowance. Meron lang po akong concern dyan. Number one, who makes the adjustment, who declares it, how is it adjusted, the formula. Maybe we can retain this as the prerogative of the legislature
That's
to
right.
fix the amount in the future, Mr. President, if necessary.
Yes, I'm very much willing to accept your amendments on this at the proper time.
So, Mr. President, since our sponsor has really covered all the bases, he has talked to the executive branch, they have assured him that funds are available. So, and nakita naman natin yung current teacher supplies allowance ginagamit din. Yun po yung realization ko po, ginagamit for the medical needs and of our teachers. So,
Our teachers.
yes, and mahirap pong panahon ngayon. I think that is the consistent expression or message of our Senate President. Mahirap ang buhay ngayon. And then kanina, nag-hearing yata, Mr. President, sa minimum wage or the across the board adjustment in the minimum wage. We are really trying to address the cost of living or the maintenance of a decent life among our people. So measures like this, Mr. President, deserve our support. Nanindigurado lang po tayo na hindi siya one of the unfunded laws or mabivito. Alam mo na. So yun lang po. And congratulations to our sponsor for already doing the groundwork for the successful implementation of this measure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Coco.
Thank you very much,
Mr. President.
distinguished minority floor leader. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Mr. President. Mr. President, before we continue, may I just put on the record and with the permission of our good chairman, Senator Bong Revilla, Senators Tolentino and Ligarda would also like to be made co-authors of the Senate
Can I
bill.
be also?
And
have-
our Senate
Can I
President.
have the honor of being a?
Yes,
co-author?
Mr.
Thank you very
President.
much.
Senator Angara and this representation had been filing this measure, Mr. President, ever since, Mr.
Ever
President.
since,
And
very supportive of this
we
measure.
are very happy that we are now here again, Mr. President, in this situation. With that, Mr. President, no other member wishes to interpolate. I move that we close the period of interpellations and debate. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection, the motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 1964. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection, motion is approved. How about your honors, the
Yeah,
Bill of Rights for taxpayers? Wala pa, we'll move it.
Not yet, Mr. President. The sponsor is Mr. President, the minority leader is seeking the floor.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
our
President.
distinguished colleague, Minority Leader.
About this taxpayers' Bill of Rights and Obligations, Mr. President. This is a very important measure.
Yes, I agree.
Maybe some of us do not realize it, pero napakahalaga. And it's we are given this chance to enact this measure, let's make sure na we are providing the people with something new, some new right,
Innovations.
some new mechanism where the alleged abuses of taxing authorities will be addressed. So just give us a little more time because we're discussing with the sponsor some of the amendments which was made the last time. So we will just go over the latest clean copy, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you very much, Minority Leader.
Kinlose ko muna yung field of interpretation tapos sinuspend ko para sa amin din. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, pursuant to Section 18 of the Rules of the Senate and with the conformity of the Chairperson of the Committee on Health and Demography, Senator Bongo, may I manifest for the record the creation of subcommittee to tackle the following bills pertaining to Magna Carta of Health Workers and such other bill related to the benefits of barangay health workers with Senator J.V. Ejercito as chairperson. Bills pertaining to Magna Carta of Barangay Health Workers, Senate Bill number 5, Senate Bill number 232, Senate Bill number 396, Senate Bill number 533, Senate Bill number 1911, Senate Bill number 1840, House Bill number 6557. Other bills related to the benefits of barangay health workers, Senate Bill number 68, Senate Bill number 84, Senate Bill number 427, Senate Bill number 434, Senate Bill number 488, Senate Bill number 580, Senate Bill number 919, Senate Bill number 1170, Senate Bill number 1393, Senate Bill number 1682. I so manifest, Mr. President.
There being no objection, motion is approved.
I-finance, binigyan lang sa JV.
Sure na? Yeah.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Monday, May 15, 2023. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection to the motion of the Majority Floor Leader. The session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, May 15, 2023. Have a safe and healthy weekend, everyone.